What kind of boat?
26-foot trimaran sailboat.
We are live. Thank you to the live viewers and those who catch us on YouTube. We're going to be recording episode 302 of the Polite Society podcast here in just a second. Before we do, I want to mention our advertisers, ABN Army Surplus, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, Firearms Safety Institute, and the Firearms Policy Coalition. No guests tonight, but we have a lot of news, and we're going to be getting with it here in just a second.
Sorry.
Okay, are we ready to cut the intro?
I think so.
Okay, for order tonight, let's go ahead and do Gary, then Rob, and then I'll kick to you, John, and then I'll follow up at the end. All right, and here we go. Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording this one live from Las Vegas, Sunday, January 18th, 2015. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and on tonight's show, we'll talk about shooting a police chief 3 times and then not being charged with a crime.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about a Pennsylvania lawmaker who wants to outlaw Appleseed targets.
I'm Gary Doherty, and we have not one, not two, but 3 stories of defensive gun uses from the gun-free paradise of New Jersey. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 302 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. Hey, and welcome back. This is our personal news segment. We're going to go ahead and start off with Gary Doherty. Been a while since I've even talked to you, bud. What's been up with you lately?
Well, I got horribly sick on my drive back from Texas, which I think is the last time we were on the show. Got a little bronchitis that was not easy to kick, not easy at all. So that was a little nasty.
Are you well now?
I'm mostly well. Yeah.
Physically. We're talking physically, dude.
I'll settle for physically.
I knew what he meant. But yeah, I mean, I still have a little bit of residual sore throat, a little stuff, but I'm coming back. I taught a class last weekend, so putting more concealed carriers on the street safely in Illinois. I think that's nothing but a good thing.
Good.
And so other than that, shooting with the students, and that was about it. So, like I said, it kind of nothing but getting back in the groove for me from after the drive and being sick and stuff. Had a class already scheduled, had to teach it, but that's about it for me.
Okay. How about you, Rob? What's been up with you, man?
Unrelated. Well, our colleague Dave Workman posted an article about demonstrating for political change while wearing a rifle on your back. He asked for comments, and I said that the protesters have let the media portray them as irresponsible. The uninformed voter now thinks gun owners should not be trusted. Sure enough, down in the comments section, a guy answers that he didn't care what anybody thought. He could protest and lobby the legislature any way he wanted and carry a rifle because that was his right. I read today that the Washington Senate banned open carry guns in public chambers. Good going, guys. I'd ask you to please go help Bloomberg and stay the heck away from the right of self-defense. A little closer to home, I finally got a call from my county board of supervisors office. Right within blocks of me, we had a rapist who was recently caught after being arrested for 3 earlier rapes. I called the district attorney's office to find out why he was out on the street. The DA's office didn't call back, so then I called their public affairs officer to ask why I didn't get a call back. Next day, I called the county board of supervisors and spoke to my supervisor's office. They finally called me back, and we'll see what they can tell me after they contact the district attorney. Remember, I have a sheriff who says, "Don't worry, we'll be there to protect you."
And he's dropping the ball.
Big time.
Well, maybe either he is or the DA is, but somebody needs to stand up and, yeah, somebody dropped the ball.
Yeah. All right. Well, John, you're this is kind of something unique for us. You're actually right here.
Right across from you. Yes. With a real microphone, not just something from Amazon that may or may not work.
That you would use to play online games with. That's when I first bought my first headset to do the podcast. That's what it was marketed as. Was a gaming headset.
Well, I'm not sure what mine was, but it probably was. Well, I flew out to Las Vegas this morning for the SHOT Show. Had to get up before 5:30 this morning because had to be at the airport at 7:30, and it was an hour drive to the airport. But one does what one must. I'm really excited to be out here in Las Vegas. I'm really looking forward to the SHOT Show. The last time I went to a SHOT Show, it was in Dallas in 1996, when it was still maybe a third the size of it is now.
Wow.
You don't give up. You don't get out much, do you, John?
I don't. Back then, I worked actually for a knife company as their bookkeeper. God, I hated that job.
Oh.
And the company's long out of business, but we were, they had some interesting knives, and we were in one of those back corner, off the main floor rooms where they put little companies. But it was interesting. I had a great time then, and I think this will just be even better.
Yeah, I'm absolutely. We got here this morning, or actually afternoon, right, Susan?
Yes.
Yeah, we got here this afternoon. Me getting here is a little bit of a story on itself. We were going to drive, and when we did, the plan was for me to get home on Wednesday, and we were going to rent the car Thursday. Susan got done with work at 1 o'clock. We were going to have everything all set, car loaded, ready to fly. She got off work. We'd drive. All of a sudden, 2 back-to-back issues happened in Maryland on Sunday and Monday. I didn't load until late Tuesday afternoon. I didn't get home till Thursday. So we weren't able to rent the car when we were originally intending to. We ended up, instead of leaving Thursday, getting 4, 5, 6 hours down the road, we left Friday morning at 4:30 in the morning. Left Sioux Falls. Had a really enjoyable day driving. Had a good day on the road, and we ended up in Dalhart, Texas, in one jump. Spent the night in a really crappy little motel room in Dalhart. Then yesterday we started off driving, and we started off in Dalhart, Texas, which is on way up north in Texas in the Panhandle, and we got into New Mexico, and we're cruising on along, and I'm not going to say who he drives for, but I know who the unnamed trucker drives for, and I see one of those trailers that I'm catching, and I know what his truck looks like, and so as I'm coming up on the truck, that kind of looks like his truck, and I'm sitting in the driver's seat, so I can't really look up at him, at whoever's driving that truck, but I catch the mirror as I go by. God, that looks like. So I get on my phone. Are you at this place where we actually were? He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, I'm the one that just passed you. So we were gonna meet for lunch. That didn't work out. He had to go to do Whole Foods, and he didn't. He had just eaten, and we weren't really synced up. I was gonna go farther than he was. So we're going to be meeting up here sometime this weekend. I think he'll get in tomorrow. He had to make a delivery, and then he's going to bobtail up. But We did go to the Grand Canyon this morning, and I got to tell you, folks, if you have seen pictures of the Grand Canyon and thought you know what it's like, you don't. If you've seen, even movies, you don't know the scope of this thing until you actually lay your own eyes on it. The camera just cannot pick up the depth.
I agree with you. I actually was flying over there and looking down at it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the little side canyons, like, now is that the Grand Canyon? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it's stunning. But and then one last thing I want to talk about before we go ahead and jump off to break here, and that's, I've said this before on the show, but I want to reiterate it because it happened again on Friday. Folks, if you've got an NRA sticker on your pickup truck, on your car, on your whatever, if you've got an NRA sticker on, please, please, please drive politely, drive smart. You are a walking, talking advertisement for the NRA, and even if you just have a gun sticker, a pro gun sticker, you're a walking advertisement for all of us. And if you cut somebody off, then it makes everybody look bad. So please, 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 if you got those things on your vehicle, your choice whether you do or not, but please, if you do, be a responsible citizen. So that's about it for me. I do want to mention before we go off to break that we do have training coming on in this coming year. Well, actually, this year. Holy crap! It's January already. We got training. Ben Branham and Bob Main are coming to Sioux Falls, and that's going to be in May. Also in August, we have Kathy Jackson coming. And the aforementioned in August 1st and 2nd, the aforementioned unnamed trucker, along with Ken Kowalski, are going to be teaching some classes. Just head on over to PoliteSocietyPodcast.com, and you can look at all the training that's coming up. Make sure you get in on that. So we're going to go ahead and step off to break, and then when we come back, we've got a ton of news. So we will step off, and we'll be right back right after this.
Right.
Hey, let me kill that headset. Number 3 down. I can turn your headset volume up or down, whether you're
good.
You're good with it. Okay.
So are we going to round robin through this?
Yeah, Susan doesn't have Susan gave up her laptop, so she doesn't have notes to read off of.
It's all my fault.
Fellas, who's reading the first item?
I nominate Rob.
Well, I'll read the first one. That might be the only one, but I'll read it.
Okay.
Okay. And so you're just going to hand them out to Paul as we go. Okay, let's hit it.
Okay. So basically, what I'm bringing us back, I'm going to throw it to John, then you're going to throw it to the next person. Is that how it's going to work? Oh, wait. Susan's got... Have you got notes?
I got notes.
Oh, let me bring your mic up. Let me bring your mic up.
I have no mic and no headset, but I have notes. I love these little things.
You're loud and clear for someone with no mic.
It's her. She's got extremely good mental powers.
Extremely mental. I don't know about powers, but extremely mental.
Look, that's the second time it's been mentioned on today's show. They're going after people with guns. Please, let's just not talk about that.
Okay.
Oh, about being crazy? Gotcha.
And why wear a gas mask?
Burritos. That's the main reason. Burritos. All right. I'll bring us in, and looks like. Are you ready to go, Susan?
Yeah.
Okay. And welcome back. This is our news segment. Susan, what's our first story?
Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation said they had no plans to file charges after the Sentinel police chief was shot 3 times. The chief was conducting a raid with other officers on a location they thought sent in a bomb threat against a Head Start office. The officers conducted a no-knock raid on the home, and the homeowner shot at police. Once he recognized law enforcement, the homeowner surrendered. The chief was shot 3 times in the chest and wounded once in the arm. Fortunately, Chief Lewis Ross was wearing a ballistic vest and was recovering from his wounded arm.
Man, everybody's lucky to have survived that one. The chief and the homeowner.
You know, I had read in that story that the chief, and Susan, I think you told me that was a borrowed piece of.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
one of the officers gave it to him right before they executed the raid.
Right.
Moreover, what I understand is that they were thinking that it was an episode of swatting. So you could have had a dead homeowner, a dead police officer,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody trying to had an axe to grind.
Huh. Wow. That was.
Which is, I think, the reason they're not bringing charges.
Yeah, if they find out who did the swatting, so to speak, on this one, that person needs to go to prison for an extremely long time.
Well, we know they're not doing that.
What?
I mean, has anybody seen any follow up on the guy with the BB gun in Walmart?
Right.
I haven't seen anything. There were no charges filed. That was the most obvious version of swatting of all time. There's a YouTube video of the call versus the activity, and everything on the call was a lie.
So you think this guy might have been swatted because he was a gun owner?
Well, we've seen more than once where anti-gun people have said, call the police and tell them there's a crazy person with a gun, and suggested swatting in the hopes of quote unquote aggravating the gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're hoping for more than that, to try and reduce the amount of, once again, take away the social acceptance of being a gun owner, taking away just the activity.
Right. Attack the culture.
Attack the culture, yeah. Exactly. So.
Well, yeah, Oklahoma isn't exactly Chicago. It's not exactly New Jersey. They could have found in this case, when they come up against a DA that really means business about, we're not going to put up with this, and if it can be found out, I think you may find out in this case in Oklahoma that there is some prosecution. I hope so, at least.
I would guess that the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation is looking pretty darn hard, because one of theirs picked up 3 rounds. Yeah.
Well, I agree 100%, Rob. I hope they are looking hard. And on the other side of that coin, I really hope they take a hard look at no-knock raids.
Yeah. For this?
They don't seem to be, I don't know, safe. I don't understand the point. Ever since I heard about it, what's the advantage? You know, I mean, you're busting in the door, and obviously they're not quietly coming to the door, so everybody knows they're coming already because there's shooting that happens. So I don't understand the point of this quote-unquote no-knock warrant serving. It doesn't seem to be what it was sold as. But
yeah.
I'm not a police officer, so I don't know.
A Pennsylvania lawmaker has once more demonstrated why political progressives should never be trusted with elected office. Representative Thaddeus Kirkland plans on introducing a bill that prohibits the use of human silhouette targets at shooting ranges across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Naturally, he plans to include an exception for police officers, Whether he intends to also mandate targets they use be accompanied with the words, "hands up, don't shoot," is left unstated.
Wow. Zombies aren't human.
Very much.
So you can shoot at apes,
Ewoks,
Ewoks. There you go.
Star Wars figures,
photorealistic
Stormtroopers.
targets.
stormtroopers,
Clone troopers and
R2-D2,
stormtroopers especially, yes.
all them ones like that. Chewbacca.
Yes.
Can I just point out that to qualify to get a concealed carry permit in Illinois and Texas, the two that I know of for sure, you must fire at a B-27 target, which is a human silhouette target. By law, that's the target that's used.
Well, see, that's a gun control legislator's dream. Will require you to shoot at a human silhouette target to get a CCW, and then outlaw the target. Perfect. I'm sorry I said that out loud. It'll be done in Springfield by Monday.
Yeah.
I do not expect this to go anywhere in the Pennsylvania legislature. I could be surprised by it, but I really don't expect it to go anywhere.
No, this lawmaker's dialing for Bloomberg money.
Yep.
Are you sure that's not a law in any state? I've heard this talked about before. I can't remember where, but I've heard it mentioned that people were not allowed to use human silhouette targets, and I don't know where. I mean, it might have just been a range or something, but...
There are some gun clubs that refuse to let you do it, the ones that are still stuck in the 50s, like my
All right, well...
local NRA-affiliated club, but hey, that's why I don't belong anymore.
The European Jewish Association represents Jewish communities across Europe. They said Jews are afraid to shop at kosher markets and attend synagogue due to violent attacks. Quote, "The Paris attacks, as well as the many challenges and threats which have been presented to the European Jewish community in recent years, have revealed the urgent need to stop talking and start acting. We hereby ask that gun licensing laws are reviewed with immediate effect to allow designated people in the Jewish communities and institutions to own weapons for the essential protection of their communities, as well as receiving the necessary training to protect their members from potential terror attacks." End quote. They don't see it as an individual right, but it is a start.
It is.
Mm-hmm. I do wish they would take more of the attitude of Matthew Chase that we interviewed in the last episode, but again, it's a start.
Toy weapons will be banned at the 2015 Central Pennsylvania Festival of the Arts. Executive Director Rick Bryant said the Board of Directors voted unanimously in November to ban children from making and selling toy weapons and historic facsimiles like rubber band guns, pop guns, swords, Nerf weapons, lightsabers, and any items that launch projectiles. In the past, children have made and sold such things as bows and arrows and shields, but those items too will be banned this year. Quote, "We live in especially violent times. Banning the sale of weapons at the children and youth sidewalk sale might not be a giant step in making our society less violent, but it's a step that we can take." End quote.
I don't, kids are inventive. Kids are famously so. I don't think there is a way you can ban all types of weaponry from kids. They're gonna make it up themselves.
In our family,
are you gonna amputate all their index fingers so they can't put their finger and thumb out and go pew pew?
Pew, pew. See, and in our family, it's Nana who's got the problem, because after Halloween, I went out and bought every single sword and shield they had on clearance rack for our grandkids. There's like 7 or 8 of them laying around the house.
I think about the toys that we had as kids that had projectiles, caps, stuff that if you brought them to school now, it would be in violation of zero tolerance policies.
Right. Well, so they've outlawed slingshots and slings. That's a strap of leather.
Uh-huh.
They fire a projectile, dude.
Uh-huh.
They're in the Bible.
Is the Central Pennsylvania Festival of the Arts sponsored with any public money?
Good question.
I bet it is.
If
I
it
guess
is,
that's
I hear a
true.
First Amendment violation.
Yeah.
I think a belt could be used as a sling.
I've done it.
I have an idea though for the Pennsylvania Festival of the Arts. How about finger painting human silhouette targets?
Ooh, on shirts. I like that.
The Center for Disease Control used to be a respected government agency. Like all government activities, it has become more political over time. The CDC's credibility took a hit after it provided poor advice during the Ebola outbreak. Doctors for Gun Ownership cite several other actions by the CDC that display the agency's anti-gun bias. This is why Congress took away the CDC's gun research funding. In 1995, the CDC funded a newsletter put out by the Trauma Foundation, a San Francisco gun control lobby. The newsletter called for readers to organize the picket at gun manufacturing sites and to work for campaign finance reform to weaken the gun lobby's political clout. This was a blatant abuse of taxpayer money. In 1989, top CDC official Dr. P.W. O'Carroll said, on record, "We're going to systematically build a case that owning firearms causes death. We're doing the most we can do, given the political realities. Scientific research should be dedicated to learning the truth, not pushing a political agenda." In a winter 1993 publication, Public Health Policy for Preventing Violence, CDC officials recommend two strategies for preventing firearm injuries: allowing only police, guards, and the military to have guns, or the outright prohibition of gun ownership. In a 1994 Washington Post article, CDC official Dr. Mark Rosenberg was quoted as wanting his agency to create a public perception of firearms as dirty, deadly, and banned.
CDC stands for Centers for Disease Control.
Yes, and they want to make guns a disease that needs to be eradicated.
I thought it stood for corrupt doctors pursuing funding.
That could very well be. Could very well be. You know, it's not like they don't have, like, I don't know, Ebola to worry about.
Or coming up with the wrong strain of flu for this year's vaccine.
Yeah, I heard
Details,
that.
John, you're nitpicking those minor details, man.
What can I do?
Usually,
the head of CDC was in France. He was just busy during that protest. Sorry. Oh, someone else.
Yeah, I heard that going to John's point, and this is totally off topic, but the shots that were usually every year they are, I'm told they're 66% effective, and now they're 23% of the 66%. Is that what I'm? Anyway, they're 23% as effective as usual. Usually they're 2/3 effective, and now they're a quarter of their usual effectiveness. So basically, this year you can skip your flu
They're
shot.
worthless. Bloomberg's front group asked Kroger supermarkets to ban guns. That's cold comfort to the customers robbed at gunpoint in a Kroger parking lot in Norcross, Georgia. An armed robber pointed a handgun at the head of a Kroger customer and demanded his valuables. The thief took the victim's phone, wallet, and cash. The suspect also shot at the victim, but missed. A shell casing was recovered in the Kroger parking lot. Investigators are looking for 2 or 3 suspects, including at least one man and one woman. Witnesses said the suspects are all black and in their 20s. Near Atlanta, Georgia, a man was carjacked in a Kroger parking lot. 2 armed men approached the driver as he returned to his car. They demanded his keys, and the victim complied. The victim was shot several times as he began walking back toward the entrance of the store. He was taken to Grady Memorial Hospital in stable condition. Police arrested and charged a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old with the crime. Both men had a police record.
In the second example you cited, the one in Atlanta, Georgia, where the victim was shot at and hit, he was a veteran. He was talking to his wife on the phone. They quickly contacted police, and OnStar located the car to apprehend the two criminals. More than that, I guess the criminals aren't listening to Bloomberg either.
But aren't we always supposed? If we come under attack, we're just supposed to comply, and everything will be all right, right?
Not in these two cases.
Yeah, it didn't work in these two cases.
They shot at him, even though they shot at both of these guys, even though they complied.
Yeah. Well, I think we got to come up on break here. So what we're going to do is we're going to step aside. We got a lot more news to come up yet, and we're going to get to that right after this. Okay, that's exactly right at half point in the. There's 12 stories, and that was the end of 6. So. Ready to go, Susan?
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to bring us back this time?
Susan, since she's going to do the reading.
Okay.
All right, here you go. 3, 2.
Hi, and welcome back to the Polite Society podcast. Powered by...
Powered by the 5. Let me restart.
Okay, I'll do it.
See? It's not in my notes.
Okay.
Welcome
All
back
right.
to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our second news segment. Susan, what's the next item?
Michigan Governor Rick Snyder rejected a pair of pro-gun bills that would have done away with Michigan's unique system of county gun boards. In rejecting the bills, the governor echoed concerns voiced by gun control groups over domestic violence issues. Two measures, Senate Bill 789 and 790, enacted in together would have mandated an end to the reviewed board process. The board's function would have been replaced by county clerks. They would issue concealed carry licenses as long as the applicants met all requirements and passed a background check from the state police.
This is revenge by the governor who did not get the legislation he wanted passed this session. Michigan listeners need to call the governor and explain his mistake.
Yeah, this is Rhino revenge. It's that simple.
Checking my email today, of course, I get the Americans for Responsible Solutions saying, "Oh, he listened to Gabby." Like Gabby could actually talk to him.
Yeah.
The Sandy Hook Commission, set up by Governor Malloy, has spent 2 years trying to come up with a plan to prevent another mass murder. 2 years. Here's the plan. Specifically, it would prohibit both the sale and possession of any firearm capable of holding 10 rounds or more without the provision to grandfather guns that are currently registered under Connecticut's already strict assault weapons ban. This would effect a de facto ban on many guns that escaped registration after owners changed cosmetic features of their firearms. Law enforcement and military would be exempt from this ban.
I got a little bit on this one, guys. They spent 2 years. I looked at the people on the board. They are politicians and psychologists, and there is one police officer. But they didn't talk to experts. I call BS if you talk to any expert. They will tell you that a bad guy stops killing when a good guy or girl shows up with a gun. Get your head out of the sand. You cannot make laws in your fantasies. Killing is illegal. Does any logical human being think that making killing with a gun that holds more than 10 rounds more illegal will stop anybody? Of course not. Okay, let's talk about reloading. They say that people were able to escape the killer while they're reloading. My question, why are you letting them get to the reload? As soon as bad things start happening, have everything in place to try and stop it now. Speaking of trying to stop it, why are we going to hinder the person that is willing to train and put themselves in the line of fire to protect children and others? You're going to force them to reload every 10 rounds? If we are talking fantasy, wouldn't you want someone that is defending the lives of children to have a magic TV gun that never runs out of bullets? Some on Sandy Hook Advisory Commission, come on, your report is due in 3 weeks. Get together with real experts and come up with real solutions. I'll give you a list to start. Massad Ayoob, Kathy Jackson, John Lott Jr., these people have spent their lives looking for these answers. Sorry, guys, I had to go.
Do you need the meds?
I do. We need the beds, baby.
Preach it, Gary. You're spot on.
Oh my God.
Well, let's get real with these guys. What they propose would not have stopped the murders, and in particular, the murderer who beat, stabbed, shot, and ran over students at UC Santa Barbara earlier this year. I'm calling them a bunch of lying politicians. They're dialing for Bloomberg cash. Prostitutes.
Yeah, it's not even that horrible. These people are buying into the BS that we see on the news. That the like Bloomberg groups that say 10-round magazines and all these people are going to escape during the reload and all that
bullshit.
Yes,
I'm sorry, family show.
Stop. I mean, come on. Let's be realistic. Spewing the same lies, that are coming from the Brady Group and the Bloomberg Group, it's not going to get the situation solved.
No, it lets them say they did something when the next accident happens. Hi, we did something completely ineffective. Obviously, we need more gun control. That won't solve it either. It's political camouflage.
I'm reminded of an experiment that Joe Huffman, who blogs at The View from North Central Idaho, did a couple of years ago when these these proposals first came out. He looked at the difference for him of using a standard capacity magazine or an assortment of 10-round magazines. I think the difference was 5 seconds.
Yeah.
U.S. Representative Morgan Griffith introduced a bill. House Resolution 131 addresses the interstate transportation of firearms and ammunition for law-abiding gun owners. It revises the Firearms Owners Protection Act that was passed 25 years ago. Specifically, 131 states the transportation of both firearms and ammunition is federally protected, as well as expands the protections afforded to travelers to include staying in temporary lodging overnight, stopping for food, fuel, vehicle maintenance, an emergency, medical treatment, and any other activity incidental to the trip. Additionally, the bill would place the burden of proof clearly on the state to show that the traveler failed to comply with the law.
I supported the bill in PopVox, and that sent a letter to my representative, Darrell Issa. I asked Congressman Issa to support the bill and to amend it. I'd like law enforcement officers and judges to be personally liable for breaking the clearly stated federal law. I'd also like the law to cover airline travelers.
They ought to rename the bill the Brian Aiken bill.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And to add it to, like you said, Rob, to amend it so that it includes airline travelers, anybody that flies through New York City would thank the congressman for that.
Or Chicago.
Yeah.
And if you get caught by a snowstorm, and they hand you back your firearms?
No, yeah, you're in trouble.
Do you think people would continue to get driver's licenses if the license required a 10-day course? What about 10 weeks? Requiring a course is a way to tax the activity and to get less of it. The same is true of gun owners. Here's some recent proof. The number of concealed carry permits issued last year in El Paso County, Texas, doubled. Why would that be? Texas reduced the number of hours required to receive a concealed handgun license. The requirement fell from 10 hours to 6 hours plus range time. We should expect the same result in Ohio, which recently reduced the amount of training it requires.
You know, you could argue for a balancing test. If we reduce the hours to get a license, then theoretically more concealed carry holders might make a mistake with their firearm. On the other hand, more concealed carry holders will get their license and be able to defend themselves and protect their families. So you could trade one cost for a benefit. But I want to ask you this question. Which of those type of errors would we see in the news? The news will carry an example of when a concealed carry holder makes a mistake. It will never be able to tell us about the person that thought about getting their concealed carry license but decided not to because they couldn't invest the time to take the course. Now, I can hear Paul already. It's unfair to even propose a balancing test. You do not balance a civil right versus the convenience of the government.
I agree totally, and I was about to say that.
Well, okay, so after a year I've learned something about you.
If I remember correctly, John Lott did some studies on the number of hours required for concealed carry permits, and I think he found that if it went more than 7 or 8 hours, for every hour longer, there was a 10% drop in the number of carry permits in that state.
Yep.
Because it would force it into a second day.
Yep.
I would honestly say the amount of training required for a concealed carry permit needs to be 0. It really does need. You should not be required to get training. Should you get training? Yes, you
Amen.
should get training, but it should not be required in any form for getting a permit. Well, and let's to take that to its logical conclusion. I don't believe you should need a permit, but if you're going to do the permitting process, required training does not need to be a part of it.
Here's some homework for our listeners in Wyoming. State Representative Allen introduced the Wyoming Repeal Gun-Free Zones Act. Well, that's a mouthful. His bill, House Bill 114, would allow legal gun owners who could carry in public to carry in public buildings such as government offices, schools, universities, and colleges across the state. The proposed legislation would not apply to courthouses and would continue to allow private property owners to restrict concealed carry on their grounds. That means churches and private schools could post their property as off-limits to concealed carry holders. Similar legislation was passed by the Wyoming House of Representatives in 2014. The bill failed in a Senate committee. House leadership has yet to assign HB 114 to a committee. Wyoming gun owners, call your legislators.
Amen to that.
Yep.
Arizona has some bills in the works that our listeners should also support. House Bill 2320 allows concealed carry license holders to remain armed when they enter state government and local government buildings. The exception is if security guards and metal detectors are in place to screen every person entering for weapons. House Bill 2431 would establish an interstate compact that restricts member states from enacting firearms transfer requirements different than existing federal law. Compacts between states supersede individual state law. An example of an interstate compact is the uniform recognition of driver's licenses. Assuming HB 2431 is enacted in Arizona, and at least one other state becomes a party to the compact, a subsequent state law, or even a ballot measure, cannot override it. Arizona gun owners, you too need to call your legislators.
Agreed. Very
You
much.
understand how significant this is, don't you, John?
I do. However, I don't think your home state would be in a compact with either Nevada or Arizona.
No, I agree. California is going to have to get mugged, but this
Everybody else could.
This would preclude a citizen initiative to
that would bring universal background checks.
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
Right. It's anti Washington State Law 591.
Yeah, 594. Right.
594,
Well,
yeah.
pro 591. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
And taking it a bit further, you would think that under the Full Faith and Credit Act clause of the Constitution, which is how we recognize driver's licenses in, for the most part, marriages, that they would also apply that to concealed carry permits. If the state in South Dakota issues us, in their good judgment, issues Paul a carry permit, North Dakota, Nevada, North Carolina, California, they should recognize it. Unfortunately, they don't.
John, I think there's just this historical precedent of local sheriffs doling out concealed carry licenses to their friends. And you're not from around here. I don't know your grandfather.
You have a poor Southern accent, but
I got
I will
a terrible
say,
Southern accent, but it's one of the best ones in San Diego.
but I will say that historically, concealed carry in antebellum times was looked down upon because gentlemen wouldn't do it.
They'd carry openly.
They would carry openly.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the gun quotes. Looks like this gun quote for this episode is by author L. Neil Smith, and the quote is, "Peace is neither won nor maintained by the unarmed." That's a good one. We're going to go ahead and step aside here. We've got DGUs coming up right after this, and boy, we got a lot of them, so hang on, everybody. Right back, the other side, right after this.
Right.
You bloody well right. You got the bloody right to say. I can't sing. Anybody notice that?
That was several years ago.
Yeah. All right. Goodness, we got a bunch of them. Okay. John, you want to bring us
Only
back?
6.
Sure. Sorry about that.
All right. Coming in 3, 2.
Hi, and welcome back to the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Susan, what's our first DGU?
We have several stories of defensive gun use from New Jersey this week. Our first is from Newark. 46-year-old Mark Robinson walked into a Newark deli late in the evening and pointed a gun at the owner. The deli owner quickly drew his own handgun and shot Robinson. Robinson fell to the floor and his 2 accomplices ran out of the store. Robinson was taken to University Hospital and pronounced dead. The deli owner ran the same store for over a decade, and he has been robbed before. Robinson's gun was recovered at the scene. He had a criminal record that included arrests for drugs, weapons, and resisting arrest. Chief of Detectives for the Essex County Prosecutor's Office said they were still investigating whether anyone else was involved with the robbery. Police did not expect to charge the deli owner.
Wow. It's New Jersey. Any gun use is...
Yeah. Exactly. If the if the store owner would have pulled it out, pointed it, the guys ran, nobody was injured, I would still expect the store owner to be charged.
Yeah.
It gets better. Also in Newark, 2 men rushed into a variety store and ordered the customers down onto the floor. The robbers threatened to shoot the customers if the owner did not give them the money from the till. One robber held an AK-47 and fired a shot. The female store owner grabbed the handgun she keeps behind the counter and fired at the gunman. She hit him in the leg. 23-year-old Daryl Hearn limped from the store. His partner in crime drove him to the hospital. Hearn and 50-year-old Arthur Price were arrested at University Hospital. They are charged with robbery, possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, unlawful possession of a weapon, and conspiracy. Police did not expect to charge the variety store owner.
Same comment on this one.
No, I'm going to. How could this? This is obviously something that just couldn't have happened because the robber had an AK-47 in New Jersey,
Yeah.
an assault weapon.
I guess criminals don't obey New Jersey gun laws. It comes as kind of a shock. It'll take me a minute to recover.
Well, while you're recovering, let's hear this one. A New Jersey homeowner in Cape May heard someone trying to break into his home. The homeowner called police. Before police could arrive, the robber broke through a glass door and entered the home. The homeowner shot the intruder. 21-year-old James Weaver was taken to Atlanticare Regional Medical Center, where he died. The homeowner was transported to Cape Regional Medical Center, where he was treated and released. Police did not expect to charge the homeowner.
That's because it's southern New Jersey.
Where they're all gentlemen.
Where it's almost actually below the Mason-Dixon line.
Huh. I just, we report on these week after week after week after week, and I don't understand how someone like Shannon Watts can go on TV and say no civilian has ever saved themselves with a gun. It happens daily. You read the reports. There was an article out this week about the CDC study, and even the CDC study, the new one that Obama ordered 2 years ago with executive order, said at least 100,000 and some thousand defensive gun uses a year, and we've seen studies say as high as 3 million. To me, one is enough, but hundreds of thousands, whatever the number might end up truly being, how can Shannon Watts or anyone else go on TV and with a clear conscience say it's never happened? And how can the mainstream media allow her to get away with it and not call her on her BS? I don't understand. Anyone?
Well, if you have your own armed guards, if you're guarded by guys with no necks and with firearms, what do you care? You got yours.
Yeah.
I mean, and I do understand what you're saying, Gary. And it's a shame. It is the shame of the mainstream media that they keep perpetuating the lies.
Yeah.
Well, who in the media is going to pull Shannon Watts up short and call her a liar?
I'm part of the media.
You and I. Thank you.
Somebody on Fox News, maybe, but
Yeah, Emily Miller.
They're extreme right wing.
Dana Loesch and Emily Miller.
Right. Well,
Don't stand near them; they'll tear her apart.
Well, they need to be louder because I need to hear it. I need it on TV when she gets up there and says it's never happened. And I am lucky to be a part of this show where twice a week we talk about time after time after time of it happening. It makes me sick.
A citizen flagged down a policeman patrolling the north end of Hartford, Connecticut. They said 2 men tried to rob a couple in a nearby building. The robbers were armed with a rifle. The female robbery victim took a handgun from her purse and shot one of the robbers in the arm. At the same time police were being flagged down, one of the robbers showed up at St. Francis Hospital and Medical Center asking to be treated for a gunshot wound to his arm. The news article did not say if the suspect was arrested at the hospital and charged with the crime. The robbery victim had her pistol permit, and the rifle turned out to be a BB gun.
Oopsie. I guess if you're going to go around with a fake weapon, you might actually run into a real one.
What does Stefan call it? A lead Oscar?
Yeah, there you go.
His acting was so good, the victims thought the gun was real, and and the criminal is literally lucky to be alive.
Sometimes you just can't wait for the police to arrive. Ephrata, Pennsylvania police had received calls that 2 men were entering cars in the area. The call came in at 2:30 a.m. A few minutes later, a woman saw someone trying to break into her car. She walked up, drew her firearm, and held the thief at gunpoint. Police arrested 22-year-old Robert LaFleur of Denver Township. The police had to taser LaFleur to take him into custody. The police then went to LaFleur's car and arrested 21-year-old Colton Lynch. The car contained items stolen from nearby vehicles. The car itself was stolen from a nearby town. Police charged LaFleur and Lynch with receiving stolen property and loitering and prowling at night.
I'm going to say on this one, you're not the police. Is the car worth your life? What if they would have been armed? Turned out good, but I don't know that I'd have done it.
About all I would have said, get the heck out of my car,
Yeah,
lock it, and then go back in the house.
yeah.
For a lot of people, getting their car stolen might mean they lose their job. That means they might not feed and house their family. I don't know whether I condone it, but I certainly understand coming up and stopping the crime.
Oh, agreed. Agreed. But I just don't. I cannot.
How long do
advocate
you
for
want to
people.
wait for the police to ever
No.
find your car?
No, I understand totally. Believe me, I just cannot advocate
Right.
holding people at gunpoint.
Got that. I'm not a cop.
Well, okay, if you're going to say that, Paul, let me just jump in. Something that just ADD popped into my head. I mention it in every class. Don't try to cuff them, zip tie them, restrain them, and any of those kind of activities. Criminals are trained in prison how to reverse on someone trying to cuff them. They're trained in prison how to disarm a person holding a gun, and they train each other in prison time and time again how to disarm police officers who are holding guns on them. So don't get yourself in that type of situation either. Sorry.
All my instructors kept reminding us that if you train, distance is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
20 feet seems like nothing to you and I. 20 feet to a target, that feels like bad breath range.
Yep.
4 armed men wearing masks drove up to a store in a Toyota Sequoia. They poured into Ryan's convenience store in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The thieves knew the routine and demanded money. This had worked for them in other robberies. Not this time. The store clerk was armed this time. He shot 2 of the thieves, and the other 2 fled on foot. 27-year-old Brian Powell died at the scene. He was on probation after a conviction for larceny. 16-year-old Kevin Dobbs was taken by ambulance to St. John Medical Center, where he died. Police arrested 22-year-old Lakeit Thompson. Thompson was held on 6 counts of robbery with a firearm, as well as 2 counts of attempted robbery, 2 counts of felony murder, and a number of traffic complaints. Thompson had been connected by police to 8 separate robberies since December 7th. The circumstances behind each robbery were the same. Multiple suspects armed with weapons quickly entered a store and left with the money. Police arrested 17-year-old George Williamson. He was jailed on 2 counts of second-degree murder, 1 count of attempted robbery, and 2 counts of armed robbery. Williamson was connected to 3 other robberies. The Toyota Sequoia was abandoned in the parking lot after the shootings.
Well, you know, as we go through this today, it seems like there is a lot of strong-arm robbery happening at different stores. I would suggest that that is a disease that needs to be investigated by the Centers for Disease Control.
I like the idea. I like the idea.
They're jealous that everybody else got Christmas presents.
I would like to say good. I mean, the clerk hit 2 of the 4. I don't know how many he shot at, how many rounds were fired, but nice work by the clerk. Well, I do want to. Sorry, did somebody else have something?
No, you're looking at a bunch of gun barrels. Someone, the time for discussion's over. If you get a chance to move, wow, it's a lethal force encounter. They are threatening your life. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Something I hope I never, ever see.
Amen.
We do post each of our news and defensive gun use articles at PoliteSocietyPodcast.com. Please take a minute to share them with a friend, and also share the show with a friend. We're growing. We're continuing to grow. That's great. We'd like to grow some more, and the only way we can do that is through you. So please let your friends know about the show. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we've got a ton of email to cover, and we will do that right after this.
Right.
How much is a ton of digital mail?
Oh, it's a ton. It really is.
I'll be right back.
Paul, I believe Rob was trying to send me an email at Gary at Polite Society. I don't have an email for that, right?
No, you don't.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I could create one.
No. I don't need a 10th email. But my point was,
okay.
I wanted to make sure there wasn't one sitting out there in ether not being checked. That's all. It's fine.
No, I had not. I had not set you up one.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to bow out. You can do emails.
Okay.
I just realized, along with forgetting my shoes, I forgot my glasses. I'm really having a hard time seeing this.
Okay.
That's an awesome job, given that the page was blurry, Susan.
I did the best. I keep trying to enlarge it, but then it jumps all over the place, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pod that mic down then. And I'm going to reach across here. Actually, could you do pod number 3 down? There. Okay, email. Whoever let's have somebody. Gary, you haven't brought us in yet.
Bringing us in.
3, 2.
Hi, and welcome back to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our email and show close segment. Paul says, we've got a ton. Tell us about the first one, Paul.
Okay. Well, first one is email that came in from Nate. He says, I'm a relatively new listener, and I want to thank you all for your efforts. Your show is a delight to listen to, and you're serving a valuable and important mission. I listened recently as you reported that a veteran in New York had his firearms confiscated due to being reported as suffering from insomnia and depression. here's my question. While he or others suffer from these unjust removals of our right to self-defense and right to bear arms, would it be legal for his spouse to purchase a firearm and have it in the home? At least if they're trained, one member of the household would then be able to defend the home if needed, right? And in that scenario, would it be the legal? What would be the legal consequence if during a genuine home invasion he grabbed his wife's firearm and shot a person in self-defense? Thanks for your insights, Nate.
I think in the first part, where could the spouse purchase a firearm and keep it in the house, I think the answer is yes. If he had been a felon, on the other hand, the answer would be no, because a felon would have access, presumably, to a firearm and therefore would be illegal. But I'm going to say, bearing in mind that I'm not a lawyer, that the spouse would be it would be legal, as long as she herself was legal, to have the firearm. On the second question, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm going to say none of us are New York attorneys. And that's a question that certainly needs to be answered by a New York board-certified attorney.
Well, that's true. Not quite to the extent of a felony. In Illinois, we have something called the FOID card system, which is the Firearms Owner's Identification Card. And if there are two adults, let's just leave kids out for the moment. If there are two adults in the house and the firearm is not locked in a safe, so either one of them has access to it. It's in a drawer, let's say. The first adult has a FOID card, owns the firearm, leaves the house, leaves the firearm home, and there's the second adult there. That adult also must have a FOID card because they have control of the firearm. So in that situation, in relation to the email, if he's not allowed to have firearms, then there couldn't be firearms that he had access to in the home. If she had one in a safe, then that gets all gray and murky, and I don't know the answer to that.
And again, none of us are attorneys.
I know how a similarly worded law has been interpreted in California. In California, if anyone in the house ends up on medicines that could have a psychoactive effect, the cops can come and take all your guns. Given that there are some drugs that are used for insomnia that are also in some cases used for schizophrenia, you have to be very, very careful about what you let the doctor prescribe for you. He could treat you for one thing, and you might find out that it could have repercussions that prevent you from owning guns.
We're going to go ahead and move on to our second email. This one, Ken in Arizona fired this one off, and he sent it to me personally, but I wanted to throw it in on the show. He says, "Hi, Paul. I see your comment about the podcast taking forever to get out. How about cutting back to once a week? Most of the ones I download, especially the lengthy ones, an hour or more, like PSP, only come out once a week. Some are once a month. Better to have your great show less frequently than potentially lose it due to burnout. It's one of my top 2 or 3, and I have a list of nearly 100. I gave up TV, so I have more time for more important things now." Ken in Phoenix. Thanks for the kind words. Yes, thanks for the kind words, Ken. The way we work this show, we're a team. And Rob does a ton. John does a ton. I do a bunch. Rachel contributes on the Wednesday shows. Susan does the news reading and does a lot of behind the scenes stuff, so it's not just me. There may be things that happen in the future. I don't know. We're going to be discussing that this week, but I don't think this show is going to totally go away. There may be changes. Well, for example, this week we started with episode 300. It came out on Friday night. I released 301 on Saturday night. 302 we're recording tonight. I will get it released yet tonight, and we're going to redo a mini cast every night here from SHOT Show. So for about a week, we're going to be having a show every night. So, but I'm not going to swear that we're going to continue the 2 a weeks forever. I don't know that we're going to go to 1 a week. I don't know what's going on for the future, but I do know that the show is not going to just go away. I won't. I've worked 3 years now. Almost next month will be 3 years I've worked to build the show to where it's at. I'm not going to just chuck it away. So, listeners don't have to worry about that. And he has a PS on that one. He says, "PS, just make sure you schedule it so Rachel is there. She adds so much to the old boys club." So, and we'll pass that along to her. Let's say that Ken wrote the next one too, but somebody else. You want to take that?
Ken wrote in, "Hi guys. My other main interest, other than the Second Amendment, is railroads. Any size and any scale. Model Rail Radio is having their 100th show this weekend. That's the 17th. 17th of January, 2015. And folks are traveling to San Jose from all over the country to Tom's house for the recording. A piece of information surfaced this week that shocked me. One of the travelers, a guy from Massachusetts, upon boarding the Amtrak train in San Diego for the trip to the Bay Area, was visited by Amtrak police, who searched his room and his bags. Can they do this? ? Can they do this in America? It has the feel of 1938 Germany or 1980 USSR. They said it was a random search, similar to the random searches at the airport. I must be missing something here, as this doesn't sound anything like the America I grew up in or the America millions have fought and died to protect, or the America, land of the free and home of the brave they keep telling us about. I was planning on a train trip. Now that I'm retired, I was planning on a train trip now that I'm retired, but now I think I'll drive. Scary stuff.
That is scary. That's where are your papers?
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if it was Amtrak police, which there could very well be, there have always been railway police. But I'm wondering if it was the Transportation Safety Administration. Because they have been doing, at least in the New York to D.C. corridor, doing inspections on people before they even got on the train.
Wow.
The question is, can they do that? And my answer is no. Are they doing it? My answer is yes. Is it right? No.
It's also like when TSA collaborates with local police. I think they were doing it in Tennessee, where they were doing stops in the middle of the Interstate 40, I think. And I would have told TSA, "You're not a law officer. Take a hike."
Mm-hmm. And there are some truckers that did successfully. Well, and then go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
Then Ken emailed one more email, this one in this morning, and we're thinking about putting in the Listener Feedback Hall of Fame for 3 emails in one show. But he writes in a comment section of a news story this week about the Charlie killings in Paris, I made the remark that I bet every one of those poor folks who were shot in that office wished they were armed that day. I got a reply asking me to name just one time an armed citizen stopped a criminal act or terror by carrying a gun. Quote, "It just doesn't happen," he said. Not one documented example. He had many thumbs up in agreement with him. Well, I referred him to the email newsletter from Guns Save Lives. It's been a few days, but so far no further reply from him, so I don't know if he took a look or not. His opinion would be surprising. And not to be believed if not for the fact that I would have said the same thing as he just about 14 months ago, before I broke away from the mainstream media, found differing viewpoints with compelling facts to back them up, and started educating myself on the internet to what's really happening out there. I hope I'm not unusual in my viewing habits, and there are others waking up to reality, but it took me 6 decades and the free time that retirement can bring to do so. There's a huge barrier to truth, justice, and the American way out there. It's called the mainstream media. It's pervasive and powerful, with rich and powerful benefactors. We have a long, hard struggle to get ahead of us to right this ship.
Well, thanks, Ken. Just next time, you can refer them to the Polite Society page, where we do list all of our defensive gun uses every week.
And if your friend says, well, this is just some gun podcast, look where we get all our instances of defensive gun use. The mainstream media. I mean, we do get it from them, but they kind of buried it on page D5. But thanks to certain sources, we ferreted out.
Right.
And I have an experience very similar to yours. I really hadn't heard about concealed carry holders stopping crime. I mean, occasionally you'd hear about it. I started my blog. I started researching it. I was doing the homework for this podcast before I found this podcast. And one of my blog posts is called, "They Were Saved by a Good Person with a Gun." So I tossed that in there. And yes, I think I got half of those from Guns Save Lives.
All right. Well, and we have one more, and Jeff sent in a link, and he asked us to comment on it. And it's we'll leave the link in the show notes, but the link is basically to a somebody making fake guns and selling them to the public. It's how do I put this? It's an extremely bad idea. If you are going to carry a gun, carry a gun. If you're going, the only thing I can see these things being used for is for criminals that don't have the wherewithal to get a gun, to get a fake one so they can use it in a robbery. There's no good's going to come of this.
Yeah, I really don't have it figured out. I almost assumed it was an Onion article.
It does appear to be real, but anyway, that's the email segment. We've got more we'll be doing later in the week, and yes, I knew Greg in Bremerton. We got stuff from you we'll be bringing up in the future. It just we ran out of time for this show, so we've got some email, and folks, keep them coming in. We love getting this feedback. Moving on, then, Rob, do you have anything from Slowfax you want to talk about, man?
Well, I'd like to start with a thank you. Someone on Facebook linked to my article about criminals not obeying Washington State's Initiative 594. Whoever it was, they sent me 2,500 views.
Wow.
Yeah. This week, I said that some gun owners don't deserve the legal right to own guns. These gun owners couldn't be bothered to go to the polls and defend their rights. So, too bad if they lose them. That might affect me here in California. The post is called "Do Gun Owners Deserve to Keep Their Guns?" It's up at Clash Daily, at AmmoLand, and at my Slow Facts blog.
I'm kind of springing this on you because I don't see it in the show notes, but John, is there anything you want to talk about from your blog?
No, most of the stuff I've done this past week has been stuff related to the SHOT Show, items that have been pre-released that I was, just putting out there.
Okay.
John, you were putting out on several shows requests to viewers as to things that they would like you to investigate while you're at SHOT Show.
That is true.
Have you compiled a good list? Do you need more? What's happening?
Well, I would say I have like 6, 7, 8 items that people wanted me to look into, whether Robinson Arms was going to put out their AR type rifle in 6.5 Grindle, check out an AR-10 12-gauge shotgun, etc.
Can I add to your list?
Well, of course.
I am very curious about this new letter from the BATFE regarding the AR arm sling.
Yeah, the SIG brace, yeah.
Arm brace.
Arm
Yes.
brace? Yeah. I'm curious as to what... who is that? Is that Ruger?
SIG.
SIG, yeah. I'm curious as to what's happening with that. Are they going to stop making it? I'm just curious what the word is at SHOT Show since it just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've seen lots of opinion. I'm curious.
At, Media Day. The
Yeah.
SIG brace is still legal.
Right.
It's just how you use it, which may not be legal.
Right.
Now, lawyers should, if there were justice, that would be torn apart as unconstitutionally vague.
Sounds like something to talk to our good friend
Pierce.
about.
John Pierce.
Yep. Well, I do think that wraps up another episode then of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We normally would thank guests, but we didn't have any tonight. And John, you're going to be here all week.
I will.
Be popping in and out.
In and out.
We may have, folks. There's a lot that goes on at SHOT Show besides SHOT Show itself. There's some things that, the social stuff that happens.
You just wanted to hang out long enough to. You just wanted to hang out long enough to go to Michael Bain's beer bash, right?
Well, yes, I do have my invitation.
All right. So, and then, Rob, you're coming up. You'll be here Tuesday, right?
Tuesday through Thursday.
Awesome. We will be. My intention is to put out nightly shows, even if it's just me on the mic, letting everybody know what's happened and what's going on with the show. We'll try to get as much as we can out. Expect short shows, 15, 20, 30 minutes, not the usual shows. And then we'll do a regular show again, probably not a week from today, but a week from Wednesday. We'll probably take Sunday, the 25th off to recover from SHOT Show, and we'll give you a lot between here and there. So, all right, well, that does do it for this show. Until next time, everybody.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, Not everyone is as smart as we are.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for watching, and we're going to go ahead and take us off the air. But before we do, I do want to thank again all of our sponsors: ABN, Army Surplus, Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, Firearms Safety Institute, and of course the Firearms Policy Coalition. I will be recording these, probably not on Google Hangouts. We'll be recording them just live in the room here. And so catch us again on Google Plus Hangouts. On the next one should be in February on the 7th, I believe. Yeah, on the 1st, I'm sorry. February 1st should be our next Google Hangout. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.